recording with the one and only Mr. Roger Williams, author of my favorite book, The Metamorphosis of Prime Intellect. That link will be in the description on Sunday, April 2nd, 2023 at 6:22 p.m. Eastern Time. Guys, if you want to support the podcast, you're watching on Rumble, click that little red button. That's locals. It's like Rumble's version of Patreon. Throw me a couple bucks a month for exclusive content and other shit. And or if you want, you can see Roger's wearing it. Back up is the merch store. It's been dead for about a year and a half. I've jumped through all the legal loopholes. I've found all the old documents that I thought were gone forever, tax codes and EIN numbers and all that shit. It's back. It is the top link in the description because some of y'all are cool and you just want to give me a couple bucks and whatever. Most of y'all are rational humans, and if you're going to pay, you want something in return other than content. You can get dope hoodies or shirts or whatever. You can
Top
support the
stuff.
fucking show. And Roger, introduce yourself and berate me for not seeing anything past John Wick 1 as I post a live link to the show.
Well, I saw John Wick 4 in a AMC Prime theater
What's Prime?
last Sunday. Dual 4K laser projectors,
Fucking
rumble
all right.
seating,
All right.
super duper sound.
Cocksucker.
Yeah, and it rocked.
I've
And
only
unlike 2 and 3, it has an ending.
It does. Well,
So-
I read the plot a little bit last night. I know it. I figured it would.
Yeah.
But
So that was nice too, because my dad was like, "Well, is this one going to have an ending?" And it's like, not it has an ending and it has a post-credit scene. So,
okay.
which none of the others did.
I did, spoiler alert for everybody listening, because I've only seen John Wick 1. And if anyone else is dumb enough like me to have not seen him, I was reading the plots last night and I was watching the scene at the end of 2 when he's in the Continental and he's like, John, just walk away. Yeah, John, just boom. And he goes, what have you done? And all the comments are, what have I done? I've set up movie 3. But John, what have you done?
And everybody in the world turns out to be a member of this Assassin's Guild. He's just walking down the street and every single person is watching
high table now, and they all turn and look. That was such a fucking great ending when he starts running and the paranoia starts kicking in. Like, who's just looking at him because he's running, and who's that was I think the only time I've seen Wick scared.
But it's a beautiful series because all 4 movies they're basically movies made by stunt people. So it's like the integration of the stunts and the action sequences with the story is just seamless. It's perfect.
Well, what I've heard from everyone that, guys like Dale or something that have watched the movie, they all say it is like the most accurate in terms of weapon handling. Like, I don't know shit about it.
That's Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
That's him right there. He's the guy. He wants to make sure every little detail is perfect as far as weapons handling. And he was like that on the set of The Matrix.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, and I have a coworker who is a big time gamer. He's done like all the major games. He can chew your ear off for 8 hours about this was the best video game of this era in the 90s, and then this was the best one in the early 2000s and all, and he's never seen any of the John Wick movies. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck?
They are actually incredible. Like, they really are.
So,
I love the dynamic. I just love the dynamic of there is some I was rewatching some clips from 1 last night. There really is something great about, like, even the cop at the front door. John, hey, Jimmy.
Are you working again?
Just sorting some stuff out.
And then
you have a good night, John. You too, Jimmy.
Yeah. And then just like, all this over a puppy. It wasn't just a dog.
Yeah, it was a car. It was who you did. Did you strike my son? Yes, I did. He took John Wick's car. Oh.
Yes.
Shit.
He's not the boogeyman. He's the guy you hired to kill the fucking boogeyman.
Baba Yaga. It is. So, yeah. But yeah, enough John Wick fans.
So we have some stupid rock tricks here.
They're not stupid, Roger. How dare you?
All right. Let us start. Actually, we'll probably finish with silicon dioxide. Okay. Your basic quartz crystal. Okay. This isn't the biggest one that I have. It's just the biggest one that I felt like hauling into the bedroom or the office that used to be one. So this is typical. This came out of the earth like this. No human fashioned these faces. In fact,
really?
no, this This came out of the ground this way.
Hmm.
Entropy did that. I have one that weighs 80 pounds, and I took it to work 20 years ago to weigh it. And of course, it's like this too with the flat, only they're a lot bigger. And my boss looked at it and said, "Oh, Roger, you did a great job shaping that thing." And I was like, "I didn't do anything to this. This is how it came out of the ground. This is a crystal. That's what crystals do." Now, this is a sizable point by today's standards, but it's not very clear.
Hmm.
This one is called a Herkimer diamond.
Okay.
And it's very characteristic. It's this short, stubby, dual pointed crystal. Some of them have water inclusions. They come from a place called Herkimer in Pennsylvania, thus Herkimer diamonds.
I
Uh,
have heard of this before.
yeah,
Sorry, keep going.
and some of them have water inclusions. They tend to be, they're very clear. Okay. I used to have a much larger one. A lot of the stuff that I thought I was going to show you tonight has mysteriously disappeared. I think it got sold. Uh, but because we do that. All right.
Mhm.
So anyway, so that's quartz, that's silicon dioxide. It's the same stuff that beach sand is mostly made of. All right. What can you do with it though? This is elemental silicon. This
Oh,
is what comes out of the reduction furnace when they remove the oxide, the oxygen atoms from silicon dioxide. And for the most part, they use sand for the source material for this process. But this is the first step toward making a computer.
so that's did that come out of a machine?
Yeah, well, I mean, this started as basically sand,
Okay,
and
so that yeah.
this came out of a furnace that they applied chemicals to draw the oxygen off, and it left just the silicon. So this is
Okay.
basically pure elemental silicon, but it's not, a neat crystal or anything. It's not very pure. It's just what's left when you take the oxygen out of silicon oxide. Now, this
Is
is
a
a,
World War I artillery ship.
it is actually a pure silicon crystal.
Holy shit.
What they do is they take this stuff and they melt it and do a bunch of magic with it. And if you look on the tip of this thing, there's a little circular feature. Okay.
Mhm.
They drop a seed crystal that looks almost comically like the valve from an internal combustion engine into this vat of molten silicon. And they draw it up very slowly. And that's how this gets built. It's literally drawn up out of the vat of molten silicon. Now, the reason I have this is it failed quality control. So it ended up at a gem and mineral show. The reason I only have the tip of it, these are normally like 4 feet long.
Oh shit.
They don't stop here. Probably because starting at this point, it passed quality control and they were able to use it. Uh,
Oh, okay.
so this part, obviously there are irregularities. If you see a good one, it's got a nice round thing.
Okay.
It doesn't have these like irregularities here. I mean, this looks like it came out of an engine that blew up at this point.
Yeah.
uh,
So what are those, for lack of a better term, what are those ingots for?
Actually, they are called ingots.
Oh, I always thought ingots were like bullion bars. All
uh,
right.
no, ingots are used for basically raw mass of any valuable material. But the main thing about these is that they're extremely pure and they are the right shape to do the next step with. So let me put this back on the ground. So after you make one of those, you cut it apart into these.
Wafers.
Right. And again, the reason I have this one is that if you look at it, you can see that the coating isn't even. Something went wrong in the vacuum deposition process, and so it didn't pass QC. So I have this nice little flat polished silicon wafer here. Um, assuming that it hadn't failed at that step, it would go on to become, oops, one of these.
Okay.
And you can probably, there we
Yeah.
go. Okay. And again, this probably failed quality control at some point, which is why it was at the gem show instead of in your cell phone. But that is how rocks turn into computers.
Can you show that last one again?
Mhm.
Can you maybe describe for people watching and for myself what am I looking? So obviously
All
it's
right.
different than the polished one. What are the etches? Is that
All right. What you're seeing is a little rectangular grid here,
yeah.
right? You catch that?
Yeah, huh?
Each element of that grid is a future integrated circuit.
Okay.
Uh, this thing, if it had been finished properly, would then be cut up into little squares along the lines of this grid. And then these little square elements that are maybe the size of fingernail would individually be mounted in a package so that they could be soldered in place on a circuit board and become part of your cell phone or something. I have no idea what integrated circuits this was trying to be, but it was just a cool demo of the process. So I thought that was a neat little journey.
It
That's
no that no that's it's I always love that stuff of seeing where it actually all comes from. So those when we're looking at wafers like that and they talk about ever increasing size of or the number of transit right Moore's
yeah.
law and then the ever decreasing size and
Now
we
the yeah the wafer that runs your computer
yeah
is much bigger than the ones on this the that rectangular grid.
uh-huh
Uh, these are medium scale ICs. The ones that run a modern computer are about a centimeter square, sometimes even a little more. These are much smaller. And the thing about that is that the whole process of making these is fraught with peril.
mm-hmm
A single speck of dust
yeah
will ruin one of these. And the bigger each of them is, the more likely that a speck of dust will be on any particular one of them. So making larger integrated circuits, I mean, the wafers are going to be about the same size. This is the physical process. This is, you know, uh, they've been doing this shit since the 60s,
okay
but it's doing it better and better and cleaner and more steps. It takes like 20 steps to make a modern IC, each of which has to be registered at nanometer scale with perfect precision, uh, and in total cleanliness. The water purification. I've read a whole article on getting the water pure enough for the steps that need water is just ridiculous. I mean, there's an entire industrial plant attached to the industrial plant just to make really clean water.
I mean the fabrication plants for chips are I mean they're space age shit
Yes.
right that's why Taiwan's so valuable is it's not they're not just another manufacturer
Yeah. And when they come out with a new process, they don't retrofit the old plant. They build a new plant because
damn
uh yeah, because the whole plant is built around the process and the number of steps and everything. What happens is the old plant stays in service though, and it goes into doing retro stuff. So you may have a fab that is obsolete by modern standards. No one's going to be making chips for your PC in it because that's state of the art. But for other stuff that's not quite as demanding, they'll say, well, we have a 160 nanometer fab we're not doing anything with.
yeah
Do you have, and so you just go to them. Parallax, the company that I use some of their microprocessors, they designed their own microprocessor in the early aughts. Uh, and they are what's called a fabless chip house because they don't have a fab. They basically designed the chip. So they made the masks and then they market it out. They say, well, they went to, I think On Semi is doing their stuff now. And they're like, well, we need a 360 nanometer process. And they're like, we've got a fab that can do that for you. And so that the transaction gets done. Then they get these in these cool plastic containers. I haven't been able to get one, but they're all sealed up and shit. And those go to the packaging houses as wafers. What they'll do is they'll test the chips while they're on the wafer and they'll mark the ones that fail. Then they'll send the entire wafer to a packaging house. They will cut it apart, retest the chips, and mount them in the packages with leads and shit and seal them up so that they can be mounted on a circuit board. And when Parallax had their last products done, they had the chips fabricated in California and on semi, but then they had to have the wafer shipped to China to package them because there wasn't anyone in the United States who could do the job. So that's part of the wackiness of things nowadays. So I had a couple other things, but if we want to make your gaming thing, we probably ought to start the reading if you want to do the reading.
Sure.
So
Yeah, no, and I mean I'm enjoying the it's whatever you want to do. I'm enjoying the
yeah.
I love Professor Roger. You're a walking talking Wikipedia page. That's one of the things I love is just having you on here and poking questions.
Yeah.
That's
Well, let me do a real quick one then. Okay. So getting away from quartz.
they keep doing the
Right.
rock. No, I'm loving this.
This is not a natural thing, but do you see that eye feature
Yeah.
kind of rotates there?
Yeah.
All right. This was cut from a piece of fiber optic cable. So if it was flat on each side, then what was on one side would jump to the other. Let's see. Oh, this is saturating my camera.
No, I can see it. It's lighting the fuck up.
You can, well, you
Can't really
can't.
see any features of the ball.
Yeah, that's the problem. You can't really see how the dot is moving around, but
Okay.
basically, this thing is made of parallel light fibers running in this direction.
Okay.
Okay, so if it hadn't been made into a sphere, you could put an image on this side and it would leap to the other side. Now that's man-made. This is not. I'm going to see. Oh, there we go. I was wondering if I could get.
Yeah.
This is called ulexite, and it is a natural fiber optic medium. It's sometimes called TV rock because if instead of making this into a sphere to get the cat's eye effect, you had cut it flat, you can put it up against an image on a piece of paper and the image will leap to the top because the light will go in, go down the fibers, hit either ink or paper and come back up. And so it'll look like whatever is on the paper underneath of it is at the top of the rock.
What the fuck?
Which is, yeah. And I was going to show you that, except that we couldn't find any. So let's see. What else did we have here? Well, I had some labradorite. I know the labradorite is not going to show very well. Let me see.
Dude, who cares? It's the explanations by
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
You see that blue flash?
Uh-huh.
All right, this is labradorite, and it is actually a major part of the Earth's crust. And the reason it makes that flash is that the crystal planes are at about the right distance to form a structure that acts like a hologram. So what it does is it takes white light and it refracts one color and makes that flash, beaming it back at you. This, if I can, all right, this is, all right, there, yeah, we can kind of get the flash there a little bit. The problem is most of this shows up best in reflection, and I'm backlit.
Yeah.
So that's
we're also on just the camera's never gonna do it justice.
Yeah. But labradorite is notoriously hard to polish, but we had a sphere maker back when we had all of our semi-precious gemstone rough. There's a story. Did I ever tell you the story of the Astro Minerals liquidation?
Vaguely. I vaguely remember you guys going to some sort of like yard sale or something and getting
right. So we used to hang around a lot, with the new age community, and we were mostly interested in the rocks and the minerals, but in Louisiana there aren't any rocks and minerals, southern Louisiana, so we have to buy them. So we would go to the places that they had them, and so we ended up getting, I think, this is where I mentioned it was with the spiritual shit and all. That was how we got into that. But we came into it more from the gems and minerals. And in the early 90s, there was a company in New York City called Astro Minerals, and their founder died. And he had spent the entire 20th century going all over the world, collecting shit and shipping it back to his company in New York. And no one knew what was in any of the boxes. Well, when he died, no one knew what was in any of the boxes. So the heirs had this skyscraper basement full of rocks, and they didn't know what any of them were. So after going through and picking out the obvious stuff, they sold the rest of it for $1 a pound. So we bought a 50-pound test box just to see what sort of
Yeah.
shit we would get. One of the things that was in there was a 7-pound chunk of labradorite. At the time, it was going for $40 a pound.
Fuck. 280 to 1 investment. Good Lord.
So we bought a drum, 500 pounds, and pulled a shitload of really great shit out of that. In the end, we ended up with 10,000 pounds. I was buying 2 drums at a time. I would have them delivered to my workplace and use the forklift to put them in the back of my pickup truck. And then I would get it home and we would just open the bed, pop the drums open in the bed of my pickup and start pulling rocks out. It's like,
That's
oh,
awesome.
wow. So, and most of that shit is gone. But what we did is we sold a lot of it. We high graded it. We worked quite a bit of it. In fact, this cabochon was one that we made. Okay. We've done a little of that. And we also traded a lot of it for other stuff that we didn't get in the
There's a TV
Astro
show that was
box.
never produced that you should have been on. I'd 100% watch that shit. Just like Drum Hunters or some shit.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, that sounds fun as fuck.
It was. And we had a couple of friends involved, and it was like every time we got another shipment, it was like, Christmas. It was like, what's going to be in there? Because we learned there was going to be a shit ton of labradorite, and I think we spent 10 grand total. We probably ended up with twice that much just in labradorite. And over the years, we've sold it, worked it, so we only have a few finished specimens left. Most of what we have left is agates, and I do have a couple of those. Oh, back to silicon dioxide. I don't know how well this is showing, but
beautiful.
Looks
like the eye of Jupiter.
Yeah, this is lace agate, and this is something that quartz does when it's not forming crystals with perfectly flat faces and shit. This is what did I do here? This is also lace agate, but it's translucent.
Yeah,
you can see. So it's unfortunately, it's not showing the
no,
fine.
it's actually really cool how it's coming through. There's a bright patch with like cloudy patches around.
There's actually a lot of really fine filigree kind of detail there that's getting washed out in the camera, though. And this stuff is real popular because it just makes real pretty pictures and stuff.
What all this is just making me think of is like back before you could have an 8K TV or a Rolls Royce. I mean, what would royalty do?
Yeah,
this shit.
Exactly.
Like that's the reason for like got like a pope's crown covered in that is the divine.
Actually, and a lot of like the royal gemstones and all are not all that impressive by modern standards. It's turned out a lot of what they thought were rubies were actually other things and stuff. But back in the day, we didn't have the grading processes and the stuff that we do nowadays. It's really it's misleading because most people think, they got diamonds on the brain, and the price of diamonds is hiked up artificially by the De Beers monopoly.
Yeah, it's De Beers just pumping that shit out of labs.
Diamonds are actually not all that uncommon. If you find a perfectly transparent white sapphire, it is more valuable than a diamond of the same size because those are very rare. Now, sapphire is also extremely common. Rubies are rubies are sapphires as well, and all those, they're aluminum oxide. They're aluminum ore.
That's it.
They're very pretty aluminum ore.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of ores, this is actually the last thing I've got to show you. Um, let's see.
Mm,
This is malachite,
that's beautiful.
and this is copper oxide.
Huh.
So this is actually copper ore, and a lot of malachite comes from copper mines. Uh, Here's a piece that might show some of the patterning a little better that it
Wow.
does. It makes all these pretty designs. And my funny malachite story. Now these are heavy. This is like this piece is noticeably heavier than a piece of quartz the same size would be
Okay.
because of the copper. Um, One thing I didn't realize until I was an adult, you just don't think of these things, is that the space between the atoms in matter is about the same for every form of matter. All right, no matter whether it's a big nucleus or a small nucleus, a lot of electrons or few nucleus, the interatomic distances don't vary that much.
Huh.
You know, by maybe 2 to 1 at most, depending on what you see. What makes a piece of matter heavier than another is the weight of its atomic nuclei.
Yeah.
And most of the things that we deal with in bulk are made of carbon
Okay.
because they're food or they're wood. If you think about it, very few of us deal with bulk metals. Um,
Like a
I do.
gold or a uranium or
Yeah. Well, your next step up is steel or iron. And so we have at work, we have these 50-pound pipe handle weights, and they're about yay big. Okay, about maybe half a cubic foot, and part of that is air because of the pipe handle, so you can pick it up. And uh, those have their weight. They're a lot heavier than a piece of wood that size because of the iron atoms, but they are less than half the weight that a piece of uranium or gold would be of the same size. Uh, if the this sphere here, this piece of ulexite is almost the same size as the core of Fat Man.
I was about to say, yeah. Oh, that's
But
that's it.
this is because it was about the size of an orange. So this is pretty close. And there's a picture of it in at work in the fields of the bomb. I think there may even be a picture of it in the plate section of the making of the atomic bomb. But the difference is this weighs about 3 pounds.
Yeah.
The core of the atomic bomb made of plutonium weighed 50.
Jesus. I was thinking maybe
This
like 10.
size.
Fuck. Then that's just like the pit. That's just the
Yeah, well, that's the cool. That's the core.
and then the actual thing is it like bowling balls like or is that what you use to shield it when you're working with it?
No, the whole bomb. That this is the fissionable material.
Yeah, that's the
It's
goodie. That's the
okay.
that's that good.
In order to compress it, you have a tamper.
Uh-huh.
And I want to say the tamper on Fat Man was about 1.5 feet,
Okay, that's what I'm
maybe in
thinking.
diameter.
That's what I was thinking of.
And then outside, and that's made of uranium.
Uh-huh.
And then outside of that, you have the high explosives.
Explosives and the cordite and the silk bag and
Yeah. Uh, Smaller bombs require boosting with tritium. And we talked about that when we discussed whether
Putin.
Vladimir actually has any working.
And I'm now starting to think that episode is aging very well. I'm really starting to think that they maybe have like 2 or 3.
I mean,
If
and if even, and because it's just too easy to not do it.
And for everybody listen, let me look up that episode right now for everybody listening. But I would, and when I say they have 2 or 3, I mean they've probably since last year gone.
Yeah,
and
they may have actually
least,
gone and found a few and made sure that they had tritium in them.
You got to have at least 1 or 2. So if you are going to detonate one, you can theoretically dispel.
I would guess that before the invasion of Ukraine, they had 0.
No, I think you're right. Episode 740. Geez, that was a while ago. 749. Does Putin
It's been a year.
Yeah, I know. I think I'm just kind of. I was just kind of blown. You're wearing the same shirt, but I'm just thinking I'm just kind of blown away by the number of episodes. That was 423 episodes ago. Does Putin have functional nukes? When we go into or Roger goes into if we're looking at how
Yeah.
corrupt the army is, and if everything they're getting at the front is not, then the long story short is it's a very expensive process to upkeep these weapons that you're never launching. And in a very
Hmm.
corrupt society, why not just pocket the magic gas and say, yeah, it's functional.
Especially because it's fungible. Tritium has all kinds of uses, and particularly all of this fusion research that they're doing for fusion power and all uses boatloads of tritium.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can't get rid of it if you want to unload it.
Yeah.
It's a commodity. It's just $30,000 a gram.
Yeah, and it's well until now, right? With a kind of a war that's approaching global powers, is no one ever launches a fucking nuke, right? They just
Yeah,
right, all things considered, hunky dory means that they just sit in the warhead, they just sit in the fucking silos for decades, right?
yeah.
So
And and
how would
and
you
they have
know?
to take them out every 8 or 10 years and
Yeah.
service them, and
By the
servicing
time
them costs half a million dollars.
by the time someone figures out you fucked it, you've probably died or moved on, and in a corrupt and poor country like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't I check under the magic box? Oh yeah, everything's good.
And the thing is, even now, even now Putin is rattling his nuke to, because things are not going the way he wants in Ukraine. The
Mhm.
Chinese are giving him the side eyes, like, you don't go there, dude. It's like,
Yeah,
we got your back up to a certain extent, but
yeah,
not to the blowing nukes extent. They're, everybody's like backing slowly away. And it's
yeah.
just,
Well, because that fucks with the whole game.
yeah,
As I always say, you want to run the table, you don't want to flip the table.
the Chinese did it right. I got to say, as far as the game of global nuclear war,
They have
they
like
built
300,
they built a couple of hundred warheads,
just
and
enough to fuck the world.
which is enough to completely ruin your day. And that's all they needed. They didn't have to, you know, tank their economy building 10,000 of them.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, that was, I got to give them props there.
No, that they did it. They did it right. They have just enough to trigger the worldwide cascade of retaliation.
Yeah, so
You're
it's
gonna
like,
need more
yeah,
than 300.
just enough
Yeah.
to ruin your day, so you don't fuck with them,
Yeah.
and that's all it takes. That's
It is really all you need is really you need like 10. Really? I
well,
mean,
you got to be sure you can get through the defenses.
that's a good point. That's a good point.
So it's like, you don't know if all the missiles are going to actually work when you try to use them and all. So you want enough to make sure that you made your point after all the failure modes are accounted for,
No,
which
that's
is
fair.
another problem that Vlad has, because like you said, I would believe that he might have leaned on some people, and they might have maybe 5 nuclear warheads now that they can guarantee him are operational.
Yeah. And
Uh,
and
but
that would be enough if he detonated one.
but then you've
That
got delivery systems, you've got defenses, uh, and of course you've got the fact that the whole world is going to kick your ass in conventional ways if you do
oh
something as stupid as using them.
no, they're gonna gangbang you. I'm just thinking like from like a geopolitical power standpoint, you'd want there's people much smarter than us are probably having this discussion of is are they functional? If I'm him, I want to detonate one, and you're gonna have people going, all right, they're probably detonating the only ones they have that work, but now it's a much bigger bluff to call to go.
Yeah.
Was that the one they
Well,
have?
I've
Or
I've noticed on Daily Kos, which, a lot of fairly high powered people, well, particularly on the left, obviously, read Daily Kos. And I put one of the few diaries I've ever put there that made the front page was on that topic right after we did the podcast. I wrote a
okay.
diary for it, and there was a lot of skepticism in the comments, and no one was, he's like, was no, you've got to be crazy. And I noticed about 4 or 5 months later that the front pagers were starting to qualify their statements about Russia's nuclear arsenal with things like however many they have that work.
Mm. Well,
And no
it's
one was saying that at the start of the war.
no, I think you have a brilliant observation on that. I think if I had to take their side and be skeptical, I think it's because the bluff is so big to call.
Yes.
It's the
And
it's the biggest.
I said myself, it's not something that I would actually,
Oh fuck no.
bet anything on.
Fuck no.
But on the other hand, if you're down to something that is similarly catastrophic that you're being asked to bargain away, like an entire country, then is it worth the gamble then? It's like, yeah, it's not worth walking up and kicking the bully in the shin just for the hell of it to see if he's got a working nuke. But if he's telling you, I'm going to decimate the population of this country that was a peaceful, separate country before we invaded them, and if you stop me, I'm going to use the nuke,
On you or them, yeah.
then at what point do you decide to call their bluff on it? How many people does he have to kill? He's killed a metric fuckload of people, including a lot of his own.
Yeah,
Uh,
defenestration, throwing them off roofs and
well,
shit.
there's that too.
That
I was just
sounds.
thinking on the battlefield.
Oh no, no, I was just thinking in terms of his
Falling out
top
of
men.
windows.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't know how many of those people who fell out of windows are people who were sucking on the tritium.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, didn't last summer like the CEO of Bed Bath and Beyond jump out of his penthouse? Is that guy tied to Russia?
I have no idea. That's new. I think Bed Bath and Beyond just went under because their business model is no longer viable in the face of
Yeah,
Amazon.
Amazon. Yeah, I think the CEO jumped
In
out of
fact,
his
I
penthouse.
was in front. I drove past ours in Mandeville this morning and store closing.
Yeah,
It's like,
everything. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think he jumped out of his penthouse last summer, which is
oh yeah, I didn't hear about that. I mean, I just knew about of course, that was I heard about them in the course of the whole Wall Street bets thing because they were
yeah.
one of the stocks that was being shorted and
Maybe it was summer 2021. That's an
yeah.
important. That's an important difference.
Um, oh yes.
The Bed Bath and Beyond. Um, nope. September last year. Okay, Bed Bath and
You must have
Beyond.
been feeling the pressure then.
Gustavo Arnold died after company announces massive. Okay, so it kind of seems like.
That sounds like when they now announced the wave of store closures.
Well, it also kind of said it. All right, so it's kind of looking like, and he was maybe doing some shady.
Well, why do you stay in a job like that with a company like that unless you're milking it for something? I mean,
That's a
it's
good
the
point.
whole,
That's a good point. Why are you writing Bed Bath and Beyond in the face of?
yeah.
Um, but we're exactly at 7. If you wanna transition, if there's time to do a reading, or we can keep shooting the shit.
Well, didn't you say you needed to be free by 7:15 or
No, no, I said 7:30.
half an hour is going to be a little tight to do.
We can keep shooting the shit, man. I just want to give you. I'm down for whatever.
Yeah, let's wait till we got time to do it right.
Gotcha.
Uh, it's like I said, it's I'd hate to get cut off because it's the climax of
Yeah,
the
no, no, I
of
got you.
the
No, you got to do it right. No, I got you. Well,
and
let's
yeah, so
well, let's pivot back to what we were doing then.
yeah,
Let's try to tie these all in then. So, how rare is something like silicon, just like in terms of like minerals and ores?
practically the whole Earth's crust is made of
Is
it.
okay, okay. Well, that's just never mind. Well, that moots the entire fucking point I was going to try to draw out. I was just thinking resource scarcity. Like Russia's, if
Yeah.
I they're pretty well rounded. South Africa or not South Africa.
There's an interesting phenomena, and this came up on one of the discussion boards, is that the mid periodic table elements uh, are the rarest. And unfortunately, a couple of those are necessary for things like catalytic converters, which is why
Hmm.
catalytic converter theft has gone through the roof. And the reason for that is that elements lighter than iron are made in great abundance in supernovas.
Hmm.
And for a long time, no one could figure out where the heavier elements than that came from because there was no model of a supernova that made a lot of anything heavier than iron. A
Isn't it?
little, but not enough to not enough to account for the amount that we have in the Earth's crust, for example.
Isn't
Well,
it like
then,
second wave supernovas or something?
no, just a year or two ago, the Gravity Wave Observatory,
Oh yeah.
LIGO, caught a couple of neutron stars colliding. And this was different. Of course, they detected black holes colliding when the paint was still wet.
Hmm.
That was like that checked all the boxes and dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's on all their theories in one swell swoop. But then after they'd been running it for about a year, they got a signal that was a little different. And they recognized it as something they had predicted if instead of two black holes, two neutron stars collided. Now, the difference is that when black holes collide, you can't see it because they're black holes. But when neutron stars collide, you can see it because they're not black holes. That should make a very big bang. At the time this happened, there were two gravity observatories working. One was one of the LIGO facilities in the U.S. and one of the ones and the one that they built in France. And by checking the timestamps, they were able to narrow it down to an arc of the sky, to a circle where it had to be. If there had been a third one, they would have been able to narrow it down to one of 2 points, but they could tell somewhere in this circle of the sky, there had to be something new. And all of the optical observatories in the world started scrambling to see if they could find anything that had changed. And within about 12 hours, they found it. And it was, the spectra was just awash in these super heavy elements like gold and platinum. And they realized that they were seeing this firsthand, and they saw that this was a thing that happens. The physicists went to their scratch pads and go, you know what? Given the number of these and the incidence and blah, 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 this accounts for the incidence of all the heavy elements in the universe.
Ah.
Now, the fun thing there, though, is that when a supernova makes heavy elements, it's starting with light elements and fusing them together to make heavier ones. A neutron star is basically a big atomic nucleus that is being held together by gravity instead of the strong nuclear force.
Isn't a teaspoon of it like 40 tons or something?
Worse than that.
Okay.
Yeah. A neutron star that is like maybe 10 or 12 miles in diameter weighs as much as the sun.
Jesus.
It is basically an atomic nucleus that is big enough to see. Now, when two of them collide, go boom, they spray bits of themselves out. And these bits of themselves are no longer big enough to be constrained gravitationally. So what happens is these bits that get sprayed out, the main masses end up forming a bigger neutron star or a black hole, but the process of the collision sprays shit out and all. Okay, well, that spray starts to decay because gravity isn't holding it together anymore. And neutron, and a big ass mass of neutrons like that doesn't want to stay a big ass mass
So
of
it
neutrons.
starts going like down the periodic table.
Right. So it starts falling apart until the pieces are small enough not to need to decay any further.
Ah, that's wild. So yeah, it's falling down the periodic table.
Yeah.
And the uppermost shit is like
Yeah.
the most state.
Yeah. The first stable shit that gets formed is what stays. Then a lot of that is still radioactive and it decays. But that's where you get gold, platinum, uranium, these the heavy elements that there's substantial quantities of in the crust of the earth and the planet and all, are even more in the core of the earth. The earth is radioactive because of this shit, and that's the reason we have plate tectonics. It's the reason we have life. Well, the middle of the periodic table is underrepresented here because you're not making shit heavier than iron, but you're not making that much shit that's lighter than plutonium, uranium, gold, platinum, stuff like that, because once it falls apart to that level, it doesn't need to decay anymore. And so some of this mid periodic table shit, there just isn't that much of it. And some of that stuff is very chemically useful, unfortunately.
It's
Which is why the dude is cutting the catalytic converter off your truck at 3 a.m.
Well, he's doing it for crystal meth, which is even rarer. Yeah, there's a funny meme of these two like white trash people getting married at a Walmart, and somebody commented it was like, do you like, Susie Lynn promised to steal catalytic converters with Jim Bob till death do you part? So then now does that rarity, does that explain the rarity on Earth, or is it not that perfectly extrapolated? Is the rarity of those metals on Earth, is that more of just like the way the crust formed?
Well, in the formation of solar systems is one of those things a lot of study has gone into, and obviously a lot of shit falls into the sun, never to be seen again. the process by which rocky planets form tends to attract a surplus of that stuff.
Okay.
Uh, so the thing, yeah, but then when the rocky world is young and mostly molten, a lot of it falls to the middle. So it doesn't stay in the crust, which is, again, the Earth's core is, got a nice little radioactive part there, which has been going for 4 billion years to keep earthquakes happening,
Mm-hmm.
which
Which
uh, which is actually a good thing
no,
because with
it's our own little power plant, right? It keeps
yeah,
it's the heat that keeps everything fucking shifting around.
yeah, and without plate tectonics, there's a lot of thinking that the Earth wouldn't have been stable enough for life forms like ourselves to evolve
And
because
the moon tugging on us gives us a nice little bit of
yeah,
friction.
and of course this is the whole thing with the curators is the curators
You got to put them in it.
deliberately arranged for all this instead of waiting for it to happen at random.
Yeah.
But I read about a year after the LIGO thing, I read a paper or an abstract that said that they thought that they could account for most of the heavy metals in Earth's lithosphere by positing two neutron star collisions. And they could say when they had happened
Hmm.
and that they contributed to the cloud that in turn condensed to form the solar system. And this was based on the population of radioisotopes of the various heavy elements that had decayed since then. So there apparently are two populations of these heavy elements. And you can look at the population of radioisotopes and say, well, these were originally uranium 235, 238, so many billion years ago. And so there was like two of these events that created the heavy elements that contributed to the solar system having enough heavy elements to make the Earth. And then, of course, the planet formation thing is, once a planet gets large enough in the gas cloud, it starts attracting shit to it. Uh, Grains of dust preferentially, not, there's a whole dynamic there that I don't pretend to understand myself. There's very smart guys who've studied it in detail though.
Would and this is with this would just be with a continuing improvement in, I guess, instruments, telescopes, and I guess
Mm-hmm.
space telescopes. Down the road with enough improvement, would a viable or theoretically viable way to find life be if you could somehow get what the spectroscopy of a planet is?
Mm.
Like if you could find like heavy elements more naturally than they would be, could you argue
They're
like
already working on it.
like a life form is doing that?
Yeah. In fact, they very recently, within the last couple of weeks, announced that one of the hot Jupiters that they found has a surprising amount of oxygen and other heavy, to astronomers, anything heavier than helium is a metal.
Yeah.
Those are heavy elements. And this this hot Jupiter that circles a red dwarf every 3 days, uh, and like several thousand degrees Fahrenheit, but it has a surprising amount of these heavy elements in its atmosphere that no one expected that. But that's the thing they're hoping to do is not to just detect the fact that a planet occluded its star as in transit, but to measure the
The-
spectroscopic change to see what's in its atmosphere. And
Okay.
so
So
that's one of the first times they've
yeah,
successfully done that and got a surprise.
if you saw I guess if you see the light behind it with a strong enough thing, you could
Mm-hmm.
almost see the like a corona, if you would,
Yeah.
of the actual atmosphere of the little tiny wispy sphere over the sphere.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
actually a subtractive process. So what you have to start with is the baseline for the star.
huh.
And then when the planet passes in front of it, you're looking for changes. And
Gotcha.
right now they've been looking for changes in brightness, but the
That's
new
just how
cool
they detect planets, period, though, right?
right. The new coolness is they're looking for changes in the spectrum, which would reflect the atmosphere of the planet refracting light preferentially. So yeah, they're working on it and getting pretty damn good at it. I didn't expect to live to see any of this shit when
So
I was your
fine,
age.
yeah, fine, yeah. Me neither. I mean, either. I mean, I remember when it was kind of a big thing that they were finding extrasolar planets. It was like this is,
Hmm.
and now it's just they're just like the catalog's 19 miles long, and it's just like yeah, there's
Yeah.
fucking whatever. And I always love the super Earths and stuff, but that's another. but that's kind of wild. So we're almost kind of fine honing it more. And instead of just seeing that slight change in light and going, something just passed in front of it, now we're going, what's on the actual
Yeah.
planet? That's wild.
Here's a thing for you that you may not have thought of. When I was a child, we did not know what the surface of any other world in the universe looked like at all. I remember in 1976 when the Viking
Hiking?
landers
Yeah.
landed, and that was the first time we ever saw the surface of another planet, like up close. Before that,
I'm now
the
seeing you in a whole new light of age.
before that, all we had was pictures. If we were lucky,
Telescopes.
if it was something like Mars, we might have a close space flyby. But imagine what you would see of the Earth if all you ever saw it from was 300 miles up.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the best we had of like even Mars. Of course, Venus has got the atmosphere, so that's nothing. But the moons of Jupiter, the moons of Saturn, it's like none all they were all dots. They were
Mm.
points of light in the sky, maybe with a light curve as they rotated. And in my lifetime, that's gone from being uh it's like I had a kid's book about the solar system when I was about 10 years old, and every fucking thing in it was a drawing. It was an artist's conception because no one actually knew what the surface of another world looked like.
It's
And
like
now we have actually got pictures of the surfaces of a bunch of
you have videos.
we've got radio controlled cars driving around on them.
It's like when you read an old book, like an old book, and then you just hear like a casual like racial comment and you're like, oh, this is an old book. Upton Sinclair's Oil, and it opens
Yeah.
with his dad teaching him how to drive a Model T, and it's like when you pass another driver on the road, it's a hair-raising experience, and you both have to move just a little bit to your right, but every once in a while you'll get an inexperienced driver, a drunk driver, or worst of all, a woman, and you're like, oh, this is 1910. He just doesn't even like dwell on it. He just says it like that and then just moves forward. You're like, this is an old book.
Yeah. That's like not even a concern. Just
No, the Crowd by Gustav Le Bon.
and these are the good guys.
Yeah, no,
These these
I read The
these are people
Crowd.
who are fondly remembered by history for being
Oh,
progressive.
they were icons. They were like no, The Crowd by Gustav Le Bon. You read, he's like talking about like propaganda for war and stuff, and it was written in like 1898. He's talking about like hysteria around like the USS Maine or Titanic, and he's like, he's like these countries begin to act hysterical, almost like a woman. And you're just like, this guy was like an esteemed. But point being, I
Yeah.
wonder what the extrapolation then, what the, I keep using that word, what's the advancement from there? We start looking at the actual atmospheres of planets. I mean, would it
Yeah.
be, you start looking at, I guess, like, would there be a way to detect, even by proxy, like tectonic plate movement or,
Well, the holy grail is to detect a world that has Earth-like surface temperatures and
well,
oxygen in its
yeah,
atmosphere,
in the
because
Goldilocks? Yeah.
oxygen in the atmosphere is a big telltale sign of life, because oxygen tends to react with everything. And if there's just like Mars, okay, have the reason Mars is red is all the oxygen has reacted with this shit on the surface. Uh, and of course, the solar wind blew its atmosphere away, which didn't help. But that that's the holy grail, is to find a Goldilocks world that you can show spectrographically has oxygen in its atmosphere. At that point, you have detected life.
Okay.
That's going to be the general consensus. Now, getting there to study it is going to be a little bit of a problem.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean that's not in our lives, but are we perhaps looking at it from our own my or is it biologically a certainty? But I've always thought like are we narrowing our view too much when we say it has to be in the Goldilocks zone and it has to be oxygen and carbon based life form? Like, is there another thing that we're not seeing?
There has been speculation, especially in science, among science fiction writers,
Silicon and
that
arsenic.
yeah, but of all the atoms that have these really good properties, carbon seems to be the really magic one, and in combination with water. because water is also a universal solvent. So, there, you can imagine different chemistries, but it would be hard, unless you demonstrated them, unless you actually found a world that that showed them, it would be very hard to to say, well, we think because there's sulfur in this world's atmosphere and it wouldn't be stable, so something has to be refreshing it, then maybe that means that there's silicon-based life there. Uh, that would be a harder sell. Um, now, one of the cooler science fiction novels that I ever read, in fact, I reread it every few years, uh, is called Ice World. And I forget the name of the author because things like that go, but it's told from the viewpoint of an alien who has discovered, who is part of a exploration party that has discovered this cryogenic world where life should be impossible, but there are weird signs of life on its surface. And it turns out that they are silicon and sulfur based. And so their baseline temperature range is 500 or 600 Kelvin. And to them, Earth is an ice world.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be possible to have life on a planet like this. It's an ice ball. And he had a lot of fun with that. But there was some of the subplots are kind of ridiculous though in that story, but that's, it was Hal Clement. Hal Clement was the author. And I want to say that was probably written in the 60s because I had already read it by the time I was a teenager. And it was typical of that, it was about the same length as Mopey. It was back when that was the standard length of novel, around 60,000 words. And that was a speculation that was already having some traction. Is like in fact, even Isaac Asimov wrote an essay called "Not as We Know It," asking if there's such a thing as life that isn't as we know it, possibly based on other atomic traits or something. And of course, everyone looks down that column of the periodic table where carbon is, and the next thing down is silicon. Couldn't
That
possibly
would
be
be.
useful for anything.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
um,
That's what
yeah,
I'm
in
like. Yeah.
fact, carbon is considered to be, it has all of the electronic properties to be the best semiconductor ever. It's just fabrication
Yeah.
that gets in our way because
Prohibitive.
we can't make big crystals of it easily, and we can't, you know, shape it as easily. It's but if we could make an integrated circuit out of carbon, as basically because that substrate would be a diamond.
Yeah.
And the De Beers Corporation would have something to say about the technology that could do that.
Yeah. No, they wouldn't.
So,
They wouldn't.
uh, no, I actually read an article probably close to 20 years ago called The New Diamond Age. It was from one of the big magazines. And the reporter had actually visited the companies that were working on synthetic diamonds. And the one that was actually aiming for integrated circuit level crystals made him wear a blindfold to their fab.
Wow.
And they were like, no, there are people who would kill us all if they knew what we were doing and where
Sure.
we are.
Probably.
Uh,
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? I
so
mean, I'm not saying it's good. I mean, you've got that monopoly and this
yeah,
blows the whole fucking lid, yeah, you hire a couple mercenaries.
yeah. So, uh, but that's the thing, technology has this way of coming around to things in ways you don't expect. So,
Well, I mean,
you know,
Coca-Cola's done it for less. They hired some mercenaries in like the 90s to wipe out a town, I think somewhere in South America. That was like they were unionizing or something in a bottling plant.
yeah. But I mean, yeah, the labor, yeah, the whole unionization things is, yeah, that there's a lot of dead people in the United States over that, but that was in
Uh-huh.
the early 20th century, and now people are forgetting it.
We
And
toppled countries because they had the crazy idea that their
yeah,
resources should benefit their people.
yeah,
The,
it's
but the
like
banana wars, like the rubber wars. Yeah, we would fuck them all up.
we stole Hawaii for the, what was it,
Yeah.
Dow family or something?
Yeah.
It was, yeah. Um, so, but there are other ways to do things. Of course, that company was actually trying to form crystals like the silicon crystal I showed you, but made of diamond. They were using a process like that. And I think at that time they had gotten to where they could make the crystal about the size of a quarter, um, before it
Yeah.
started to break down. But if you look at these, all right. Oh, I didn't show you. I knew I forgot something. Silicon dioxide.
Oh, that one. I like that one.
This is a man-made quartz crystal.
Yeah, it's
So,
a little symmetrical.
so now in World War II, when radio was starting to really become a big thing, if you needed a resonating oscillator crystal, like this, has a very flat slab of this inside of it. The way you got it was you went to Arkansas and they had quartz mines, and they would take these giant, beautiful, clear quartz crystals that would be magnificent specimens and cut them up into little bitty chunks to make these. In the late 50s, they learned to do this. So they could take beach sand or crap quality quartz crystals and make giant, clear, perfect crystals like this one, which are actually better for radio elements.
Do they use that entire thing, or do they take little slivers of that?
Well, it's just like the silicon. They cut it into little
Okay, that's
slabs,
what.
and there's a whole science of which angle you cut it
Yeah.
at, and you get a different properties, and then the thickness tends to determine the frequency. Uh, and the reason that modern quartz crystals and radio sets aren't this big, you probably can't read it, but this one's like 2206 kilocycles. All right, so this is about a 2 megahertz resonant crystal. 2 megahertz is like old school broadcast band. I mean,
Okay.
nowadays everything is gigahertz.
Yeah.
So the smaller the crystal, the higher its resonant frequency. So these things have gotten smaller and smaller as the operating frequencies have gone up and up. So now they're using teeny little chips of quartz crystal instead of these slabs. This thing is this big because it needs to be, um, but that isn't the case anymore. So yeah, I shot myself in the presentation there. I was going to do that
No,
as part of
no,
the
no, not at all. No.
silicon thing.
What is the
Oh,
value of a higher?
oh,
Oh,
there are a couple of other things
fuck yeah.
I do have. All right. How about a fossil? Okay. This little critter is called an ammonite. It's basically a sea snail. And what's nifty about this one, it doesn't really come across on the camera, is that its shell has been completely replaced by iron pyrite, fool's gold.
Hmm.
So it's gold. It's the color
So
just isn't coming through.
no, you can see it. You can see some
Yeah.
hues.
But yeah, that's not calcium carbonate anymore. it's it's been replaced by iron pyrite. And I've cut these apart. Uh, and if you split them in half, the interior has the chambers, and those have been replaced by pyrite. And sometimes they have crystals inside them in the
Jeez.
hollow spaces, so they're very cool. This was another thing that I thought I had more of these, but didn't. And oh, and here, right, this is a thunder egg. And
Under it.
I was told to present it like this.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Now, what happened here
Yeah.
is this was ejected from a volcano, and the outside hardened
Uh-huh.
while it was in the air. This particular one still had some liquid in the middle when it hit the ground,
Is that the white
and
line?
the rest of it formed like sedimentary linear features. So the round part is what solidified while it was flying
Mhm.
through the air,
And then the white
and
part
then
is the
and then after it hit the ground,
you get
the
that
liquid that was
pancake.
still in there stratified in this flat
Wh-
thing.
why did it do the stratification and then like the more like the light gray part obviously it's not flat. That kind of seems more. Did that just cool down?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it forms crystal. So you have the white part just solidified. It
That's the
didn't form
impact.
crystal. And then the rest of it formed crystals.
But so is the white part. That means that's the side that hit the ground.
Yes, it was.
That's so
And
fucking
that
wild.
in fact, that's why this is flat. It's like it was a
Yeah,
blob of semi-molten rock when it hit the ground.
that's wild.
And these things actually are fairly common. Um,
That's insane. That's so perfectly flat. Or like the white.
yeah. Well, that's gravity. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, that's a good point.
Now here's one. Uh, this one, instead of cutting it, it was cracked with a giant chain, which was good because these are calcite crystals inside it, and they would have been ruined by the saw cutting fluid of a rock saw. Uh, this completely hardened while it was still flying through the air. So it is there's no hint as to which side of this hit the ground because by
Yeah,
the time it hit the ground, the whole thing was hard. And all these crystals formed while it was
just
in the air, because volcanoes, man.
what the fuck?
So we used to have a couple of these that had amethyst crystals in them. I don't know what happened to those either,
I've got
but
it. I've got a beautiful amethyst somewhere.
yeah. And well, and of course, amethyst is my birthstone.
Yeah, it's
So
beautiful. I got one that I have one I've had it since I was a little kid, and I'm still tempted to like lick it. It just looks so tasty. It looks like fucking candy. It's like
yeah.
transparent purple with like a light like blue tips on it.
Hmm. Yep, that's it. And some of them you see where the amethyst, of course, the amethyst color is due to an impurity, and you'll see some of them where there are stratifications where the crystal grew to a certain bit, and then the impurity wasn't there, and it grew clear for a bit, and then it started to grow more with the impurity. So you'll actually see layers,
Hmm.
and you hold it up to the light, and it's like nested hexagonal boxes of purple.
It's so they're so like psychedelic. They really are.
Well,
Just
and
comes out
that,
of the fucking ground.
yeah,
It's
it's like
yeah.
like that. It's like no one cut this. This is
No.
what did that is math,
Forces, yeah, the forces
entropy.
that create that are just
It's
are the forces at the center of the Earth strong enough to actually change the nuclei, or is that or does that have to be supernova? Like if like
no,
you're not
they're not
strong
strong
enough.
enough to do fusion or
Yeah,
anything like that.
no ripping apart like uranium to make
They are
solid.
strong enough to compress to compress matter.
Sure, you can get diamond, you can
The
yeah.
the nuclei are closer together so that a mass drawn from the center. In fact, this is actually going to be a plot point in the next reading of the Curators, is what happens in the middle of a planet. Uh, it's if you drew a chunk out of the middle of the Earth, the way that we did out of the middle of the sun in the last reading,
Mhm.
it would go off like a small atomic bomb. It would contain that much energy.
Wow.
Um, Not a very big, but it would be considerably bigger than a giant, Davy Crockett, and not quite as big as Fat Man, but it
It'd
would,
ruin your day.
yes.
But if you took a chunk from the center of the Earth and just like magically could just teleport it to the atmosphere, it
it would
explode?
it would go off like an
I
atomic
guess you're
bomb
right. He's right. That much. Yeah.
because it just contains that much energy.
What?
And so we've done a star like the sun in the Curators. In the next
Mhm.
reading, we will do a planet like the Earth and a neutron star.
Fuck yeah. There's, and I need to find this. I
And
forget where I want to say I saw it on. I thought I saw it on something credible years ago, but I have no idea if this is like something I read in a textbook or if it's something I watched high on YouTube, like in college. So I have no idea. But it was like if you had the head of a pin was as hot as like the center of the sun, and you just like held it up, it would like cook everyone within like 2 miles to death. Just like that pin. That doesn't really.
Probably not 2 miles,
It
but it would.
doesn't pass the smell test for me.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I could do the. It was like, oh, well, I did the math on it,
Yeah.
but I did it. I did the math for a two kilometer radius, 2 kilometer diameter chunk.
No, no, I'm talking
Um, but
head
yeah,
pinhead.
well, it's 150 times denser than water, and it's at 15 million degrees Kelvin.
Okay.
So yeah, even the head of a pin is going to have a lot of energy. Now, I don't know about 2 miles. That does seem like stretching the square cube law a
It,
little bit.
2 feet
But
from me. It's cooking. It's
if it's
cooking
at the
me.
end of your arm, you are Wile E. Coyote after
It's
the stick of dynamite went off.
it's lighting. It's by not convection or conduction. What the fuck radiation? It's cooking.
Radiation.
My whole room is igniting.
Yes, it
Okay.
would do that for sure.
Just the head of a
Um,
pin.
yeah,
That
and
odd.
yeah, from the center of the sun is
Yeah.
150 times as dense as water
Yeah.
and 15 million degrees Kelvin.
So then we would just say it's how many times 150?
Hmm.
So it's more like 150 pinheads of water. That's 15
Right.
million. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
that's all right. That okay, I see that a little more.
It's
That's
yeah.
that's
It's because it's not just that it's really hot, it's really dense. So
so if we spread it out to 150 pinheads, I don't know what's that. We'll just say like a little tiny film at the bottom of a shot glass. 15
yeah,
million. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, boiling
It
water
would
will work.
definitely set everything in your room on fire. I don't know about 2 miles away. That seems a
No,
little
I feel like it'd probably cook
too
this
much.
building.
Yeah.
I mean,
Uh
boiling water heats, I can feel it in my kitchen when I'm just like boiling water. I
yeah.
can
Well, it would set everything around it on fire.
immediately,
Yeah. I
I'd be
mean, by
gone.
thermal radiation, it's that
It
because
just,
that's what it is.
yeah.
Um
Yeah,
now,
my bones and my blood would be acting as a heat sink.
yeah. Uh the center of the earth isn't nearly that bad, but it's still pretty bad.
Yeah.
Um the center of a neutron star makes that look like the vacuum of outer space.
Jesus. Makes the sun look like that.
Yes.
So a pinhead of neutron star from the center, that'd cook
That
Port
would set people on fire 2 miles away for
that'd
sure.
cook Portland. That'd cook downtown Portland.
Yeah.
Wow.
Um,
Center of a black hole. Or I guess do we even know that? Is that
well,
physics breaks
I
down,
didn't
right?
go there. And this was one of the things that came up in the comments. In fact, after I did some of these things, was like, what do you do with a black hole? And I was just like, opening a fold portal into the center of a black hole is probably just not that good of an idea.
There's no controlling that.
But I did have them channeling the gravity through the microfold to do really wicked acceleration for spaceships because we could not just teleport matter, but we could selectively teleport particles, including just gravitons. So I did have a couple of situations where people are portaling the gravitational flux from Sagittarius 1A, the supermassive black hole at the middle of the Milky Way, and using it to propel starships.
Well, that'll do it.
I
What's
think
the
it actually gets you about 25 gravities, I think.
what is now is it am I getting it wrong? Isn't the hottest part of the sun not the center? Isn't it isn't there part of the doesn't isn't there some weird like thing like bell curve where there's a layer that's like hotter?
Yeah, but it's like the Earth, though. It's like the Earth's upper atmosphere is stupidly hot, but it's also so thin that you would freeze to death waiting to feel it.
Okay.
That's the way it is with the sun. The sun's photosphere is the actual part that you see when you're looking at it isn't nearly as hot as the parts that are above it that are transparent, but
But they're just
those don't they don't contain as much
they
energy
don't have
because there's
they don't
not as
have
much
them.
matter there. So
Gotcha.
yeah, so it's like, yeah, there's a part of the Earth's atmosphere as you go up where the temperature gets stupidly high, but you would also suffocate in a
Yeah,
matter of
okay.
moments. So
Yeah, it's like looking outside of like a window on like the SR-71, and it's like, yeah, it's so fucking hot, but it's like you'd freeze to death in a millisecond.
yeah. So
Gotcha.
it's that sort of that was the it's like, you know, when I did the one that I already read you where the curators decided to take a chunk out of the middle of the sun,
Hmm.
like I had told you, uh I decided that's the way the weapon would work because the basis for this technology was established. You can teleport a couple kilometer spheres of shit from here to there around the universe, and you don't have to worry about gravitational wells or anything. So it's just, all right, well, what happens if you take a 2 kilometer chunk of the sun's core and expose it to space? And I ran the numbers on it. And it was like, you have got to be fucking kidding me, because you normally see those exponents only when you're talking about atoms. You
Mm.
don't see them when you're talking about joules of
Yeah,
energy.
yeah. So it's just
And
destruction.
yeah. And when I was doing the neutron star, I did the first calculation. I was going to have the curators plant orbiting a gas giant, and I was going to blow up the gas giant. And I realized that the curator's neutron star is 7 billion years old. So it's an old neutron star. And neutron stars aren't fusing anymore, they're cooling down. Now, they're still not very cool by our standards, but a 7 billion-year-old neutron star is still a geriatric case compared to, say, the one in the Crab Nebula that human beings observed being formed. I realized that if you did that with the Crab Nebula, you could blow up Jupiter.
Hmm.
But if you did that with a 7 billion-year-old neutron star, you couldn't quite do that. So I had to blow up an Earth-like planet instead. I'm just like, I was in the mood to blow up a planet,
Yeah, I feel like I'm.
writers.
I feel like I'm in court and I'm watching your defense. Like, so I
Yeah.
had to blow up, and I'm just like life without parole. Like you psychopath. I appreciate the steps you've gone to, Mr. Williams.
Yeah. Well,
Fucking
I didn't want to do a half-ass job of
death
it.
penalty. I, let it be. Let us enter into the record. I understand where you're coming from rationally, but you do not belong on the streets.
Well, at least not in my own novel.
No. But Raj, I'm an idiot. We got to wrap this one up. I have you down for 6 p.m. this coming Sunday. We'll do the reading. Thank you for Professor Roger. I sincerely enjoy my Professor Roger episodes. I really do.
Yeah.
You're a great teacher. That is a profession that you have managed to master. And
Well, I try. And
you know, you really
and I have a lot
you
of fun on this end of it too.
you
So
really know you really do. I mean, I wouldn't keep doing them. I wouldn't give you carte blanche by saying like this to a Professor Roger episode on what I don't care.
yeah,
You do have an ability to teach that is
yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
commendable and inspirational.
Well, thank you.
Yes,
I
sir.
mean, part of it though is having something to show you to touchstone off of and all. And as you know, we had a little hiccup there when you said you want to do a Prof. Roger episode. I was like, oh, we've already talked about AI. We've talked about the nukes. We've talked about this, and Chat GPT isn't that much different
Yeah,
from what
we've
we were
done.
talking about when we were talking about it. It's just what it has is become more public,
Yeah,
but it's really the same kind of thing. Uh, and yeah, so it's like, well, it's like I never did the rock collection thing. Of course, now I've realized I don't know where a lot of my rocks are.
yeah, but there is something like poetic with like again, kind of in ancient times, they'd be like you can see the whole universe and like like the a tiny little rock. There is something about this sort of professor episodes where we bounce things off of one another. There is
Mhm.
something symbolic about how it doesn't even necessarily have to be, Ukraine, Russia, or Chat GPT or fucking whatever. There is something poetic about how we can go into this sort of learning inquisitive mode and
Yeah,
you just explore everything. It doesn't really matter what the starting point is.
there's
We have
always
been,
something else to learn.
yeah,
And
there's,
that's true. That's as true for me as it is for anybody.
yeah,
So,
and
uh,
that's what I like is these exist as like entrance points and we like
mhm.
open it up, but then it's like who knows where it's gonna go. And that's what I like is they're more yeah, they're more like they're entrance points. You can have a runway. There's a runway a couple miles
Yeah.
from me. You can go anywhere from it, but you have to have the runway. And that's how I feel with the Professor Roger episodes. Is it doesn't matter what we can go into vacuum tubes, the history of porn, whatever. All episodes we've done, tarot cards. Once we get airborne, it's like we can take this puppy anywhere.
Yeah.
That's what I like. Um, but yeah, it's 7:42, and I'm an absolute fucking retard. I always think I can do an hour of work, and I have 18 minutes. I'll be able to knock everything. No, I won't. No, I won't.
Yeah,
And I
well,
will
that's why
never.
you'll notice you said, well, maybe we can do the reading, and I was like, I think we only have half an hour
Yeah, no,
left. And
I'm a jackass. I'm an absolute jackass. I'll never learn. I'll never because there's no one to make me learn. I'm my own boss, so I never penalize myself. There is no learning. I'm just a bratty child. I'm like, yeah, we'll do it tomorrow. I lie to myself every day and think I can. Not important, guys. Go grab the book, Metamorphosis of Prime Intellect, in the description. Um, go check out the curators episodes, or you can look at other episodes we've done, like The Gift. It's a fucking great one, and
all indexed at localroger.com,
that's also in the
LOCALROGER.com.
description. Um, yeah, Roger.
And you can buy some of them from Amazon and places like that, or Lulu in the case of Opie, the Metamorphosis Prime Intellect.
Give Roger some cheddar.
So.
Give Roger some fucking cheddar. Whether neutron stars are collapsing or not, money still makes this world go around.
Yeah.
Give Roger some fucking cheddar. But yeah, all those links in the description. Go help Roger out. Go check out our past episodes. They're all great ones. 749, does Putin have functional nukes? That's a great episode. And we will resume 1 week from today at 6
Sounds
p.m.
like a
We'll do
plan.
some curators. And until next time, Roger. Thank you so much. Always love having you on here, dude. And yeah, see you in a week.
See ya.
God bless to everybody. Thank